Hello and thank you for joining me today on The Political Conversationalist. My name is Ben Phipps and we're starting a new series of videos today, and we're going to be doing those every Sunday until we run out, and Wednesday we'll start a new series of videos too. So I'm excited for the coming week. But today we're starting the series on political people, more specifically people who influence politics or have influenced politics. So it's not just going to be actual politicians. And in fact, the one we're talking about today is not an actual politician, but he does have a lot of impact in the political world, and his name is George Soros. George Soros is seen as the boogeyman of politics, especially if you're on the conservative side. And they think every Democrat is a George Soros puppet. They think Black Lives Matter is completely funded by George Soros. They think all the rioting, the Trump riots, all the protests, everything comes back to him in some way or form. I don't think that. And the reason I don't think that is because it can't be proved. But we're going to talk about what can be proved, give an outline of the man, and we're going to try to make a verdict on what the truth actually is. So firstly, despite what Facebook would have you believe and the many memes I've seen on this, George Soros was not a Nazi and is not a Nazi. George Soros is actually Jewish, and he was actually a Holocaust survivor. He was born in 1930 in Hungary and lived through the German occupation, Nazi occupation, 1944 to 1945. And then after the war in 1947, he moved to London, where he studied economics at the London School of Economics. Fancy that. And in 1956, he moved to the United States. In 1970, he launched a hedge fund called Soros Fund Management that was extremely successful. And he made his big money betting on currency. For those of you not privy to the stock market, like me, I didn't know this until someone told me, you can actually trade currency. So if the dollar is strong or the pound or whatever, you can trade your dollars for pounds, and then when the pounds go up, you can trade them back into dollars, and then you make more money. It's very confusing. It's more confusing to me than the regular stock market, but that's how George Soros made most of his money, was actually by betting against the English pound. He made a lot of money like that. He also made some money betting against some Asian currencies as well. So that's where he made most of his money, and that, I believe, also contributes to the negative perception many people have of him, is that he did not make money off other people's fortune. He made money off other people's misfortune. Anyway, he has, of course, a charitable organization, and he has given away over $12 billion to date. He's extremely liberal. It's safe to say that if he ran as a political candidate, which I'm sure he won't because he's 84, 86 now. The article I read said 84. He would be 88 by now. Anyway, so he's 88 years old. I don't think he's going to run for any kind of office. But if he did, he would definitely be a Democrat, and he would definitely be very liberal. He has stood up for gay marriage. He has stood up for the legalization of marijuana. He has stood up for typically liberal issues, and consistently stands against conservative issues. In addition to that, he stands against America First policies. He stands more for what's considered by a lot of people to be globalism, and he doesn't really stand up for any kind of strict border enforcement or anything like that. And people, like I said, they try to link everything the Democratic Party or everything liberals do that's wrong back to George Soros, and this is why. That $12 billion he gave away didn't go to UNICEF. Some of it might have, but it didn't go to the Red Cross. It went to political candidates. It went to political organizations. It went to PACs and super PACs that pay political candidates. Campaign finance can be a very dirty business. But he has his counterpart, kind of just like Batman has his Joker, or Joker has his Batman. He has the Koch brothers on the conservative side. The Koch brothers, K-O-C-H, are very conservative billionaires, and they use their money to push conservative issues. But the problem with making a video about George Soros, and why I wasn't too excited about making this video about him, is that there's very little we can prove. There are many claims about the man. He's almost gained legendary status. They claim that he was actually a Nazi officer and he pretended to be a Jew or whatever. They claim that every single dirty thing that the Democrats have ever done is George Soros. I've even heard people claim verbally to me that George Soros donates so much money that he owns every single congressman. Every single one. I don't think that's true either. But what we can see is the possibility, and this is because of campaign finance law. Let's look at it this way. If you start off in politics and you want to make a positive impact on the world, like I do, a man approaches you and says, you know, I like the way you think. I think you're going to do good things. Here's $500,000 for your campaign. But I'm going to need a favor later. Do you take that money and hope that you can do enough good with it once you get in office, knowing you're going to owe that man? Or do you say no and very well lose the election because your opponent probably won't say no? So the way that campaign finance is set up is really in the interest of people like George Soros and the Koch brothers who want to influence things without being in the spotlight. What we need is more transparent campaign finance laws. I mentioned super PACs and PACs, and basically the way that is just a money bank. There are super PACs and PACs that give money to specific candidates or candidates that stand for specific issues, and whoever wants to give money to that super PAC can, and we can't tell who did, and we can't tell where that money went. As soon as the money enters the super PAC, or actually before, as soon as the money leaves the bank account of the donor, it is completely untraceable. And it sounds a lot like money laundering to me. But people like George Soros, I've heard people even say Bill Gates was similar. I don't know if he is anymore. Steve Jobs, of course. All the billionaires fall under scrutiny for this. But what we do know is this. George Soros is a very liberal man. And George Soros has a lot of money. And he uses that money to further his liberal agenda. Or liberal ideology, rather. He believes in things like abortion. He believes in things like gay marriage. He believes in things like marijuana. He believes in all these things, and he uses his money to influence politicians and other people to his side of things, to his side of ideology. So if you stand against those things, if you stand against abortion, if you stand against gay marriage, if you stand against marijuana, then yes, you could very easily say he's evil. But what he's doing may or may not be evil in the method. In fact, it's a perfectly legal method, and if he wanted to approach every single congressman in Congress and say, I'll give you $1 million if you'll vote blank on blank, I'll donate $1 million to your campaign, that's perfectly legal by today's modern campaign finance law. So maybe we shouldn't hate the players so much. Maybe we should change the game. Anyway, hope you learned a little something in this slightly rambling, somewhat off-topic video today. It was a little different for me having to do a video on a person. Of course, the first time I've done that. And like I said, next week we're going to talk about the Koch brothers, which are his counterpart on the conservative side of things, and they have just as many conspiracy theories about them. And Wednesday, we're going to start a different type of video. We're going to start political philosophical concepts. That's the one I'm more excited for, and that's why I'm splitting this up. These profiles of people are going to be more educational, and the political philosophical concepts are just going to be my thoughts on things. So it's going to be a good balance of information and inflection. Anyway, I appreciate you joining me today. Of course, if you have a comment or a question, you can always leave it in the comment section below, and I'll try to get back with you as soon as possible. If you have a more in-depth question, if you have a future topic for a video you'd like to see covered or something like that, you can always follow the link to my Facebook page in the description. You don't have to like me on Facebook, but I would appreciate it. And you can email me from there, and I'll respond to those emails as fast as humanly possible. Anyway, thanks for watching.